Next up, we need to talk about gentle parenting. But to start things off, I gotta ask you, what do you think gentle parenting is? Because if you asked a dozen parents, what does that mean? You might get a dozen different answers, right? Everyone's interpreting and applying it differently. There's tons of noise and misconception, and it's become a very popular parenting style, and one that people love to talk about. I mean, on TikTok, just the hashtag for it alone has over 5 billion views from parents explaining how they use gentle parenting in their lives and what it looks like for them. And because there's such a mess around what the hell is actually going on, I want to try to unpack this. So for this story, we spoke with Claire Lerner, a licensed clinical social worker and child development specialist. And she explained, at its core,
what gentle parenting means, writ large, I would say, is a parent-child relationships that is characterized by clear boundaries, empathy, understanding, and respect, okay, for the child, which are all critically important aspects of like a long-term healthy relationship.
Right, so it's important that we start there because some people think that it's just letting your child run wild, or your kid does whatever they want all the time. You never say no, but it's not really that. It's supposed to be actually laying out clear rules and boundaries, enforcing them consistently, but also treating your kid like a human with feelings, right? And so you also acknowledge those feelings. So that might look like telling your kid, no, you can't have a new toy or a sugary snack before bed, but then also explaining why, right? Showing that you understand they're frustrated even if you don't agree. It's also things like giving a kid some autonomy over their body, like giving them and telling them they have the right to not hug someone if they don't feel like it, letting them wave or high five instead. With places like the New Yorker explaining that the goal is to create a child who can recognize and control their emotions because their emotions have been validated, which should help them be self-regulating, kind, and conscientious, right? And all of that at least looks a little different from how previous generations were raised. With Lerner noting that a lot of people had the do as I say because I said so rule, which my parents definitely loved. They also loved the do what I say, not what I do, because, you know, fun bonus points for being hypocrites. But also you have situations where toddlers are just getting punished for things they weren't capable of understanding was wrong.
Now we know that, you know, even babies are deeply feeling humans. The way you talk to them, the way you nurture them as they grow, the way you encourage their independence and help them learn how to manage life's frustrations and disappointments is through empathy and teaching, not punishing.
And with this, a report from The Conversation going so far as to say that, quote, perhaps gentle parenting is more than just a parenting style. It's also a rejection of the parenting styles of previous generations. Right? So it's not some kind of free-for-all, but it's also not enforcing militaristic compliance either.
It's not like you're loving your child or you're setting limits. Like, the limits are a critical part of loving your child because it keeps them healthy and safe, and it helps them learn to adapt and be flexible and manage when they can't get what they want when they want it.
But, and this is a key thing here, because the point of this segment isn't me telling you how to raise your children. Even though many have found this to be an effective parenting model, shocker, raising kids is incredibly difficult, and not all kids are the same. For some kids, they're going to hear an explanation about why they can't do something and move on with their day. Others are going to have a full-blown meltdown. And those kids may not want to then hear their parents try to empathize and sort out the emotions.
It's overwhelming. They can't process it. Often it feels very intrusive when parents are saying things like, I know you're really mad. They're screaming, I'm not mad. Stop telling me I'm mad. Stop looking at me. Go away. The reactivity level is so intense and so quick that what they need is, like, my motto is less is more.
Also, having a reactive kid, that's not a sign of being a bad parent or raising a bad kid. It's just the way they're wired, and modifying to adapt to that is part of parenting. And key thing, even when it looks different than the methods you see working for others. But then that is also a big thing. Comparison. Seeing what's working for others, being told all these messages on social media about what parenting should look like, that could really strike a nerve. And actually with that, Lerner explaining that the discussion of gentle parenting has morphed into a lot of potentially unrealistic messages online, right? Saying that parents should always be engaged in a joyful connection with their kid, that they shouldn't feel frustrated, that you can always stay calm because if you're calm, your kid will always be too, that you should never separate from them in a tough moment. And so with that, you have Lerner saying those ideas can be a massive disservice to parents.
In the real world, that is not always the case. The messages parents have gotten have totally backfired, and parents have internalized that as there's something wrong with them, right? That they can't be a gentle parent and there's something wrong with their child.
And again, everything can be different. That's not to say that these messages are false in every single scenario. Some kids are calm and will roll with every punch, but some kids are more prone to stress and they're going to have a tantrum. When you have a toddler kicking and screaming, parents are only human. They start to feel just as exasperated. So even though gentle parenting leads with empathy, learner explained that parents are not bottomless pits of empathy. They have breaking points, and that's okay. It is okay to take a moment for yourself to get that out, get situated. Just be careful if you use that moment to go to Instagram Reels or TikTok, because there's no shortage of parent influencers who will make it seem like gentle parenting is this one-size-fits-all magic wand. When you have parents who are going through this rough moment, seeing that, they can start to internalize their stress and exhaustion.
It's so debilitating. I mean, I talk to parents on a daily basis who are in tears. It is incredibly distressing, and they blame themselves, which erodes their ability to be there for their child.
And also what adds to the exhaustion and the confusion is that so much of the online conversation around gentle parenting can be so vague. There's so many ideas that can be applied in different ways. You look left, you're told one thing. You look right, they say another. Which is why it's not surprising to see this report where the conversation spoke to parents using gentle parenting. And a lot of them were just at the end of their rope, with the report saying that many acknowledged without prompting they were struggling to feel competent. And 40% of these parents expressing that they were hanging on for dear life, that they felt like they had no clue what they were doing. It was making them feel exhausted, uncertain. They were going hard on themselves. Right? Some don't have a strong support system. Others, they're suffering from information overload, like we are with a lot of things, but especially here. And this is, you have Dr. Cara Goodwin writing a piece for Psychology Today, noting that when parents experience this overload, they actually have more difficulty making informed choices, and that parents who feel inclined to constantly research have lower confidence in their parental skills. So again, that's not to say that everything parents see online is going to have a negative impact. Or you've got articles and creators on social media trying to dispel many of the myths about gentle parenting, which is also why you had learners saying that parents should trust their intuition, and if they see something that makes them feel like they're being a bad parent, to just give themselves a moment to reassess.
What's the post that got you, that made you feel like you were a failure? And question. It's really making a major mind shift and saying, my job is to know who my child is and what makes them tick and what they need from me. And what I find is once I help parents recalibrate that, it's life-changing.
And on top of all that, parents can seek out content that will help you, not hold you back, and also, very importantly, kind of like meet you where you are. Because, y'all, so many of us know that what we see, what people are posting, it's bullshit. It's people trying to be seen a certain way, even if it doesn't reflect reality. Ideal aesthetic over real substance.
So I would say, look for the people who you feel reflect your reality, because you're going to probably get a lot more relatable, real life guidance from those sources.
One of the biggest things out there is you got to give yourself some grace.
You are human. Do not berate yourself for that.
But hey, that is where this is going to end. Hopefully you feel like you learned something. I did. I initially went into this story because someone that just kind of lets their kid run wild and like walk all over them was like, yeah, it's gentle parenting. And I was like, I don't think that's what that is. But yeah, I'd really love to hear from you, whether it be about how you were raised or if you've tried certain models, whether it includes gentle parenting or not on your kids if you have them. Or, people love to recommend books on this topic. Really, any and all things. I'd love to hear from you.